Okay, so we've talked a little bit about an input box, but I wanted to get a little bit more in depth because there's more you can do with an input box than just ask the user for input. So this will be a really short video, but we're still building on the previous one I did. So when we run this one, and I'm going to step through it one line at a time, it brings up my input box. It says what date was this. Now you can see up top here it says Microsoft Excel, and you can see in here it doesn't say anything. So we're going to type in our date. We'll hit OK. All right. And so now you can see it put down here my date. But if we go back up to here and we type in comma, you can see it brings up stuff that it wants me to fill in. So I already have my input box method here. My prompt is not highlighted, title is, because my prompt is already here. That's what the first thing I put in, and then separated by a comma. And then my next thing is title. So title is what we put on the top left of the box. So we'll call the title date played. Oops. And then we can also add a default value, and we'll say the default value is enter date here. All right. Now this X position and Y position, you can tell it where you want the box to open, but we won't get into that. For the most part, you're always going to want it to open in the center of the screen. But and then help file, if there were a help file, you could put a link to the help file there. And then context, well, it's like if there's a ID number for a context file, we don't really use that, so we can ignore that. Anyway, let's do this line again. Now you can see I've got the title up here, date played, and then my default value is enter date here. So that's a way you can customize an input box a little bit more, so it's worth knowing. So we'll type in our date again. Now you know, just so you know, because we declared this as a date, dp equals a date, if I enter something that's not a date, so if I just write oops, you can see it says type mismatch runtime error. So anyway, you should know that. We'll get into that in another video, how to deal with errors. So anyway, that's a little bit more in-depth on an input box. Pretty short and simple video, but should help you on how to write an input box. Now, you should always, I could be wrong in this, but pretty much every time you're using an input box, it's a variable. So almost always when you do something with an input box, you're going to have something equals that input box. In this case, we have our DP is date played equals the input box. So you would almost never have code where it just has input box and nothing before it like that. You're basically saying, hey, look, this thing that I'm declaring, this variable, get the information from the user as the input box. So anytime you're writing in or using an input box, it's almost always going to be after a variable like that.